What makes a simple white nightgown look so elegant? Is it the color? Is it the long flowing silhouette? Is it the off-the-shoulder neckline? Or is it the way the soft fabric moves with every step? At first glance, this dress might look simple. It is white. It is long. It has delicate ruffles. It has an off-the-shoulder neckline. And the overall design appears relaxed rather than heavily structured. But that's exactly where the beauty of this style comes from. This type of dress represents a fashion aesthetic that has been becoming increasingly popular among women who want something feminine, romantic, comfortable, and visually graceful at the same time. Today, we're taking a closer look at this white sheer mesh off-the-shoulder ruffle long nightgown, including its design, style, silhouette, modern fashion appeal, where this type of garment is commonly worn, who tends to choose it, when it works best, how to style it, and why a flowing white dress can create such a striking overall appearance. And by the end, you'll understand why a garment that looks incredibly simple can actually have so many layers of styling possibilities. The first thing you notice, the color. Let's start with the most obvious feature, the color, white. White has always occupied a special place in fashion. Unlike extremely bold colors, white doesn't immediately demand attention through intensity. Instead, it creates attention through lightness, cleanliness, softness, and simplicity. And that's particularly effective with a long flowing garment. When a white dress moves, the fabric catches natural light differently across the folds. Some areas appear brighter. Other areas appear slightly shaded. The result is a sense of movement even when the design itself is extremely simple. That's one reason white has remained so popular in romantic fashion. It gives clothing an almost effortless appearance. And with this particular style, the white color works together with a loose silhouette rather than competing against it. The result is a soft visual impression, the off-the-shoulder design. Now, let's talk about one of the most recognizable details, the neckline. This is an off-the-shoulder design, meaning the neckline sits below the shoulders rather than following the traditional neckline structure. That immediately changes the character of the garment. A conventional nightgown might have a round neckline, V-neck, button front, or simple collar. This design goes in a completely different direction. The shoulders become part of the styling. The neckline creates a horizontal visual line across the upper body, while the rest of the garment falls vertically toward the floor. And that contrast is important. You have a relatively defined neckline at the top, and then a very relaxed, flowing silhouette underneath. That combination gives the dress a distinctly romantic appearance. It feels more intentional than an ordinary sleep shirt. It has a fashion identity, the ruffle detail. Then comes another important feature, the ruffles. The neckline isn't completely plain. Instead, delicate ruffle detailing follows the upper edge of the dress. You can also see ruffle treatment around the sleeves. These small details make a major difference. Without them, the dress could look extremely minimal. With them, the garment develops a softer, more feminine character. Ruffles have been used in fashion for centuries because they add movement and texture without requiring complicated construction. And that's exactly what happens here. As the wearer moves, the ruffles move slightly with the body. That gives the garment a more dynamic appearance. The design doesn't look rigid. It looks soft. It looks relaxed. It looks romantic. The long, flowing silhouette. Perhaps the most important characteristic of this dress is its length. This is a full-length, floor-skimming style. Instead of ending around the knees or calves, the garment continues almost all the way toward the ground. That creates a vertical silhouette. And vertical silhouettes are particularly effective when the goal is elegance. The eye naturally follows the garment from the neckline downward. Instead of breaking the body into several separate visual sections, the dress creates one continuous line. This is one reason long dresses are often associated with graceful fashion. The fabric becomes almost like a moving frame around the wearer. Every step creates a slightly different shape. The hem moves. The folds shift. The fabric catches the light. And suddenly, something as ordinary as walking becomes part of the visual presentation. Why does the dress look so flowing? A major reason is the fabric construction. The design shown here has a lightweight, sheer mesh-like outer appearance, creating an airy quality. That is very different from heavy cotton, denim, wool, or structured evening fabrics. Those materials tend to hold their shape. Lightweight mesh and similar fabrics tend to move. And movement is extremely important in fashion. Imagine two identical dresses. One is made from a heavy, stiff material. The other is made from a lightweight flowing material. Even if the pattern is identical, the second dress will appear much more fluid. That's the effect we're seeing here. The fabric creates softness. The softness creates movement. And the movement creates visual interest. Is this really a nightgown? That's an interesting question. Yes, this design can be categorized as a nightgown or sleepwear-inspired garment, but its appearance is more sophisticated than a basic traditional nightgown. Modern sleepwear has evolved significantly. Historically, nightwear was primarily about practicality, comfort, warmth, privacy, ease of movement. But modern fashion increasingly blends comfort with aesthetics. That's where pieces like this come into the picture. A contemporary nightgown can be comfortable enough for relaxing at home while also being visually sophisticated. Some designs even blur the line between sleepwear, loungewear, and casual fashion. And this dress sits very comfortably within that aesthetic. The romantic fashion aesthetic. If you had to place this garment into a broader fashion category, one of the strongest descriptions would be romantic feminine fashion.
Why?
Because almost every major design element contributes to that aesthetic. The white color, the flowing length, the ruffles, the soft neckline, the lightweight fabric, the relaxed sleeves, the movement. Nothing about the design is aggressive or heavily structured. Instead, the entire garment communicates softness. This is very different from streetwear. It's different from athletic wear. It's different from business fashion. It's even different from traditional formal wear. It belongs to a softer visual world. The modern version of a classic idea. Here's something interesting. This isn't actually a completely new concept. Long white gowns and flowing dresses have existed for generations. What's changed is the way modern fashion interprets them. Today, designers frequently combine vintage-inspired silhouettes with modern fabrics and construction. That's why this dress can feel both old-fashioned and modern at the same time. The ruffles give it a vintage romantic quality. The off-the-shoulder neckline gives it a contemporary fashion element. The sheer mesh construction adds modern texture. The floor-length silhouette connects it to classic gowns. So instead of being purely vintage or purely modern, it's a combination of both. And that's one reason this aesthetic continues to attract attention. Who usually wears this style? This type of garment isn't limited to one particular age group. Its appeal is more connected to personal fashion taste. Someone who enjoys romantic fashion may choose it. Someone who likes cottagecore-inspired clothing may like it. Someone interested in vintage-inspired styling may choose it. Someone who simply wants comfortable, elegant loungewear may also find it appealing. That's important because fashion today is much less rigid than it used to be. People don't necessarily dress according to one category. A person might wear athletic clothing one day, minimalist fashion the next, and romantic vintage-inspired clothing another day. So this type of nightgown can fit into several personal aesthetics, cottagecore and soft fashion influence. There's also a connection between this dress and the broader cottagecore and romantic fashion movements. Cottagecore became associated with imagery of gardens, nature, countryside living, handmade clothing, soft fabrics, floral patterns, and nostalgic styling. Look at the environment in the image. Greenery, flowers, natural sunlight, a residential outdoor setting, and then the white flowing dress. These elements naturally complement each other. The dress doesn't look out of place surrounded by plants and flowers. Instead, the environment reinforces its aesthetic. That's an important lesson in fashion photography. The clothes don't exist independently. The background matters. The lighting matters. The environment matters. Even the movement of the wearer matters. Where is this style most commonly worn? Now, let's answer one of the biggest questions. Where would someone actually wear a dress like this? The most obvious setting is the home. This type of garment works naturally as sleepwear and loungewear. It can be worn during relaxing evenings. It can be used as a comfortable morning garment. It can be worn while reading. It can be used during a relaxed weekend at home. But that's only one possibility. Depending on the specific fabric, opacity, construction, and styling, similar designs can also be adapted for bridal preparation, photo shoots, romantic fashion photography, themed events, costume-inspired styling, private homeware, relaxed resort environments, garden photography, content creation, fashion editorials. The exact use depends heavily on the garment's transparency and construction. And that's important. A sheer garment designed for sleepwear isn't automatically appropriate as everyday street clothing. Styling determines the context. Why is white so popular in romantic sleepwear? There's a psychological component to color. White is commonly associated with simplicity, freshness, cleanliness, and calmness. Those associations work particularly well with sleepwear. When people think about bedtime clothing, comfort is usually the first consideration. But visual calmness matters too. A soft white garment can create a peaceful aesthetic. That's why white, cream, ivory, champagne, and pastel shades frequently appear in romantic and luxury sleepwear collections. They create an atmosphere. And fashion isn't only about what you wear. It's also about the atmosphere you create around yourself. The beauty of simplicity. One of the biggest lessons from this dress is that fashion doesn't always require complexity. There are no dozens of visible accessories. There isn't an elaborate pattern covering the entire garment. There isn't an overwhelming collection of colors. Instead, the designer relies on shape, fabric, movement, and detail. That's enough. Sometimes the most memorable outfits are the ones where the viewer can immediately understand the concept. This dress communicates its concept within seconds. Soft, romantic, flowing, elegant, relaxed. That clarity is powerful. How does it look after you put it on? This is where silhouette becomes particularly important. The garment is loose and flowing rather than tightly structured. So when someone puts it on, the dress creates a soft outline around the body. Instead of emphasizing every individual contour through tailoring, it creates an overall silhouette. The result is a graceful, relaxed appearance. The long fabric falls downward. The sleeves add softness around the arms. The neckline opens the upper portion of the silhouette, and the ruffles add texture. Together, those elements create an appearance that can feel elegant without looking overly formal. That's a major advantage of flowing dresses. They can look polished while still feeling comfortable. Does it make the wearer look more elegant? It can, but the reason isn't simply the color. It's the combination of proportions. A long silhouette creates continuity. An off-the-shoulder neckline creates definition near the upper body. Ruffles introduce texture. Lightweight fabric creates movement. And the white color keeps the overall appearance visually clean. When all of those elements work together, the result can look very elegant. The key is balance. If the neckline were extremely elaborate, the dress could become visually busy. If the fabric were extremely heavy, the movement would disappear. If the garment were covered in decorations, the simplicity would be lost. Here, the restraint is part of the appeal. A very important styling point: fit. A dress like this doesn't need to be extremely tight to look attractive. In fact, its entire aesthetic depends on relaxed movement. But that doesn't mean fit doesn't matter. There is a difference between flowing and poorly fitted. The shoulder area should sit comfortably. The neckline should stay secure. The sleeves should allow movement. The length should be appropriate for the wearer. And the fabric should fall naturally rather than becoming excessively bunched. Good fit allows the dress to maintain its intended silhouette. The role of body shape. Another interesting aspect is how flowing garments interact with different body shapes. Because this design isn't heavily tailored, it can create a relatively universal silhouette. The garment doesn't demand a particular body type. Instead, it creates its own shape around the wearer. For some people, the loose silhouette provides a relaxed and graceful appearance. For others, the off-the-shoulder neckline becomes the primary focal point. And for others, the length and fabric movement are what make the outfit appealing. The important thing is that fashion doesn't have to force every body into the same silhouette. Different people can interpret the same garment differently. Why the dress works so well in photos. There's another reason this style performs well in visual content. It moves. Photography and video both benefit from clothing that creates motion. A stiff garment can look almost identical in every frame. But a flowing dress changes shape. When the wearer walks, the hem moves. When she turns, the fabric follows. When she raises an arm, the sleeve changes position. When sunlight hits the material, the appearance changes. This gives photographers and content creators more visual opportunities. That's why flowing dresses are so common in fashion reels, lifestyle videos, editorial photography, and outdoor shoots. Natural light makes a huge difference. Look at the outdoor environment in the image. The natural sunlight interacts with the white garment. That creates highlights and shadows across the fabric. This makes the material appear dimensional. Under flat indoor lighting, the same dress could look completely different. This is why lighting is an essential part of fashion presentation. Soft daylight can emphasize the airy quality of lightweight fabric. Golden hour light can make white clothing appear warmer. Overcast light can create a softer, more evenly illuminated look. So if you're creating a video around this dress, lighting should be part of the story. When should someone wear this style? For traditional sleepwear, the answer is simple: evening and bedtime. But if you're treating the garment as fashion-inspired loungewear, there are more possibilities. It can work for a slow weekend morning, a relaxed evening, a private photo shoot, a bridal morning, a romantic-themed fashion shoot, a garden-inspired content shoot, a cozy indoor lifestyle video, or a resort-style setting, depending on the design and opacity. The main rule is context. The garment should match the environment. Seasonal appeal. This style also has a seasonal personality. Because the fabric appears lightweight, it naturally fits warmer weather. Spring is an obvious match. The white color works beautifully with flowers and fresh greenery. Summer also makes sense because lightweight fabrics can feel visually and physically airy. Early autumn can work as well if the garment is styled indoors. For colder weather, the same aesthetic can be adapted with layers. For example, a soft robe, cardigan, or wrap can transform the overall look. That's another advantage of neutral clothing. It can become the foundation for multiple combinations. Accessories. Less is more. One of the biggest mistakes someone could make with a dress like this is over-accessorizing. The dress already has the ruffles, the neckline, the long silhouette, and the flowing fabric. So it doesn't need a huge amount of additional decoration. Simple accessories usually work better. For example, delicate earrings, a simple bracelet, a subtle necklace, a soft hair accessory, or even no jewelry at all. The goal is to preserve the visual softness. Hairstyle. Hair also changes the overall effect. A loose braid can reinforce the romantic aesthetic. Soft waves can create a more classic appearance. A simple bun can make the neckline more visible. A natural ponytail creates a more casual interpretation. So even though the dress itself doesn't change, the styling can completely change the impression. This is one reason fashion content can be so engaging. The same garment can produce multiple personalities. Footwear. If the dress is being worn strictly as a nightgown, footwear isn't really important. But if someone is adapting a similar design for a fashion shoot, footwear can dramatically change the mood. Bare feet create a relaxed homeware atmosphere. Simple slippers create a cozy lifestyle aesthetic. Minimal sandals can create a resort-inspired appearance. Elegant flats can create a more polished look. The footwear should support the story rather than compete with the dress. Why this look feels feminine without being overdone. This is perhaps the most interesting part. The dress doesn't rely on excessive decoration to create a feminine aesthetic. Instead, it uses classic design vocabulary: soft fabric, ruffles, an open neckline, a long silhouette, and a light color. These details have been associated with feminine fashion for generations. But because the overall design is restrained, it doesn't feel excessively complicated. It feels natural. And that is probably the strongest description of the entire style. Effortless femininity, the bigger fashion trend. We're also seeing a broader fashion movement toward clothing that combines comfort and aesthetics. People increasingly want garments that feel comfortable but still look intentional. That's why loungewear has become such an important fashion category. The old distinction between clothes for home and fashionable clothes is becoming less rigid. People care about how they feel in their clothes. Softness matters. Breathability matters. Movement matters. But appearance still matters too. This dress represents that intersection beautifully. Why viewers are attracted to this visual style. From a YouTube and visual content perspective, this type of dress has several advantages. First, it's immediately recognizable. Second, the white color contrasts strongly with green outdoor backgrounds. Third, the long silhouette creates an obvious visual shape. Fourth, the ruffles provide texture. Fifth, the fabric moves naturally. And sixth, the overall aesthetic tells a story. It suggests relaxation. It suggests romance. It suggests softness. It suggests a slower pace. Those associations can make fashion videos visually satisfying. The most important detail: confidence. Ultimately, however, clothing doesn't create elegance by itself. The wearer does. The same dress can look completely different depending on posture, movement, styling, and confidence. Standing naturally can make the garment look relaxed. Walking slowly can emphasize the flowing fabric. Turning slightly can show the movement of the skirt. Adjusting the sleeves can highlight the off-the-shoulder construction. Small movements can make a huge difference on camera. And that's exactly why this type of dress works so well for video. It responds to movement. So, what have we learned about this white off-the-shoulder ruffle nightgown? It's not simply a white dress. Its visual identity comes from several elements working together: the white color, the off-the-shoulder neckline, the ruffle detailing, the lightweight fabric, the full-length silhouette, and the flowing movement. Together, they create a romantic, feminine, and relaxed aesthetic that can work particularly well for sleepwear, loungewear, fashion photography, and lifestyle content. But there's still much more to explore. Because the real question isn't just why does this dress look beautiful? The bigger question is, how can you style this type of dress so that it looks completely different in different situations? How can the same basic design become a cozy nightgown, a romantic photo shoot outfit, a cottagecore-inspired look, a bridal preparation garment, a sophisticated loungewear piece? And what small changes can completely transform its appearance? That's where the styling gets interesting. We've already established why this dress catches attention. The white color creates a clean and peaceful appearance. The off-the-shoulder neckline adds a modern touch. The ruffles introduce texture. And the long, flowing silhouette creates movement with almost every step. But now comes the more interesting question. How do you actually make a dress like this look its best? Because owning a beautiful garment is only half the story. The other half is knowing how to present it. The hairstyle can change the mood. The lighting can change the color. The accessories can change the personality. The setting can completely change the story. And even the way someone walks can make the exact same dress look completely different. So in part 2, we're going beyond the basic description and looking at the modern styling possibilities occasions, locations, body silhouette considerations, accessories, photography, seasonal combinations, and the overall aesthetic of this white sheer mesh off-the-shoulder ruffle long nightgown. And there is one important thing to remember throughout this entire discussion. The goal isn't to make the outfit complicated. The goal is to allow the dress's natural design to do most of the work. The modern way to wear this style. Modern fashion is increasingly about combining old and new. That's exactly what makes this garment interesting. The ruffles and flowing length have a distinctly romantic, almost vintage-inspired feeling. But the off-the-shoulder neckline and lightweight mesh construction give it a contemporary interpretation. That combination makes the dress versatile from a visual perspective. It doesn't look like a strictly traditional nightgown. It doesn't look like a conventional formal dress either. Instead, it sits somewhere between romantic sleepwear, elegant loungewear, and fashion-inspired maxi styling. That's where modern styling becomes important. Rather than adding lots of accessories, you can simply change the surrounding elements. Change the hairstyle, change the footwear, change the location, change the lighting, change the outer layer. Suddenly, the same basic garment has an entirely different personality. Look 1. The classic nighttime style. Let's begin with the most natural interpretation, the classic nighttime look. Imagine the dress being worn indoors during a quiet evening. The lighting is warm. The environment is comfortable. The hair is natural. There are very few accessories. The dress remains the central focus. This is where the garment's original purpose becomes obvious. The loose construction allows comfortable movement. The long length creates coverage. The lightweight fabric creates an airy appearance. And the relaxed silhouette makes it appropriate for unwinding at home. For this version, simplicity is everything. You don't need dramatic makeup. You don't need complicated jewelry. You don't need elaborate footwear. The dress itself already establishes the mood. Look 2. The romantic morning aesthetic. Now imagine the same garment in the morning. Sunlight enters through a window. The curtains move slightly. The wearer walks slowly through a bright room. Maybe there is a cup of coffee on a nearby table. Maybe there are flowers in the background. Suddenly, the same nightgown becomes part of a lifestyle aesthetic. This is where white clothing performs particularly well. Natural morning light can make white fabric appear soft and luminous. The flowing material creates movement, and the relaxed silhouette communicates comfort. For content creators, this can create an extremely appealing visual narrative. The audience isn't simply seeing a dress, they're seeing a mood. And mood is incredibly important in lifestyle fashion content. Look 3. The garden style. Now, let's move outdoors. The image you provided already demonstrates why this works. The dress is surrounded by greenery and flowers. That's an almost perfect visual environment for romantic fashion.
Why?
Because there is a natural color contrast. White clothing against green foliage is immediately noticeable. The flowers add another layer of visual texture, and natural sunlight highlights the folds of the fabric. This creates a soft, almost storybook-like atmosphere. A garden setting can therefore transform the garment from ordinary sleepwear into a romantic fashion concept. Of course, whether the actual garment is appropriate to wear outdoors depends on its construction, opacity, and intended use. But from a visual and editorial perspective, the aesthetic combination is extremely effective. Look 4. Cottagecore. If you want to push the romantic aesthetic further, cottagecore is another obvious direction. Cottagecore styling often incorporates natural fabrics, floral surroundings, soft colors, vintage-inspired silhouettes, loose dresses, delicate details, natural hairstyles, countryside-inspired settings. This dress already contains several of those visual elements. The long silhouette gives it a classic feel. The ruffles introduce vintage influence. The white color creates simplicity, and the natural environment completes the aesthetic. You could pair the look with a simple woven basket, flowers, a garden setting, or rustic surroundings. The objective isn't to make the outfit look like a costume. Instead, you want it to feel naturally connected to the environment. Look 5. Minimalist modern style. Interestingly, the same dress can also be styled in a minimalist way. Remove the flowers. Remove the vintage accessories. Move indoors. Use a clean background. Keep the hair simple. Use minimal jewelry. Now the dress becomes much more contemporary. This demonstrates an important fashion principle. The environment can redefine the garment. A floral garden emphasizes romance. A modern apartment emphasizes minimalism. A luxury bedroom emphasizes sophistication. A countryside location emphasizes nostalgia. The clothing hasn't changed. The context has. The role of the OFF, the shoulder neckline. Let's return to the neckline because it is arguably the strongest structural detail. The off-the-shoulder construction changes the visual balance of the dress. The lower half is long and loose. The upper section is more defined. This creates contrast. The viewer sees a clear neckline before the eye follows the fabric downward. That's why the neckline is such an important component of the overall design. And because the neckline is already distinctive, you don't necessarily need a necklace. In fact, too much jewelry around the neckline could compete with the ruffled detail. Sometimes the best accessory is simply space. Let the neckline remain visible. Let the ruffles create their own texture. Let the dress breathe. Should you wear a necklace? It depends on the styling goal. If you're trying to create a classic romantic look, a very delicate necklace can work. If you're creating a minimalist look, skipping the necklace may be better. If the ruffles are particularly prominent, avoiding a necklace can keep the neckline clean. This is an important principle. Don't decorate an area simply because it's available. Ask whether the accessory improves the design. If it doesn't, leave it out. Earrings can change the whole look. Earrings are often easier to integrate with an off-the-shoulder design. Small earrings can maintain the delicate aesthetic. Longer earrings can create a more polished evening appearance. Simple pearl-inspired accessories can reinforce the romantic character. But again, moderation matters. The dress already has several decorative elements. The objective should be harmony rather than competition. Hair, the secret styling tool. Hair is particularly important with an off-the-shoulder garment.
Why?
Because the neckline exposes the shoulder area. Long hair worn completely forward can partially cover the design. That's not necessarily bad. But if you want to emphasize the neckline, moving some or all of the hair away from the shoulders can make the dress more visible. A braid can create a soft romantic feeling. A loose bun can create a cleaner silhouette. Natural waves can make the look feel more relaxed. And a simple ponytail can make it feel contemporary. So the hairstyle should be selected according to the story you're trying to tell. The difference between romantic and luxury. These two styles can look similar, but they're not identical. A romantic interpretation emphasizes softness. Think flowers, natural light, gentle movement, relaxed hair, and delicate details. A luxury interpretation emphasizes refinement. Think clean interiors, controlled lighting, polished hair, minimalist jewelry, and carefully chosen accessories. The same white gown can support both. That's what makes a neutral garment so useful. It becomes a blank canvas. How the dress can create a graceful silhouette. The long vertical construction is one of the strongest visual elements. The dress extends from the upper body toward the floor without strong horizontal interruptions. That creates visual continuity. And because the garment isn't tightly structured around the legs, the wearer can move naturally. Walking creates a subtle wave through the fabric. Turning creates a larger movement. Standing still creates a long, uninterrupted silhouette. This is why the garment can appear graceful even when the styling itself is extremely simple. Does a flowing dress hide the body or enhance it? The answer is, it can do both, depending on the construction. A loose dress doesn't emphasize every contour the way fitted clothing does. Instead, it emphasizes the overall silhouette. The viewer sees the relationship between the shoulders, torso, fabric, and hem rather than individual body measurements. that can make the outfit feel elegant and relaxed. And that's one reason flowing silhouettes remain popular across different fashion eras. They don't depend entirely on body-hugging construction to create visual appeal. Why confidence matters more than body type. One mistake in fashion discussions is assuming that a particular dress only works for a particular body shape. That's not necessarily true. A garment can be adjusted through sizing, styling, layering, and proportion. But confidence is universal. If someone feels comfortable in what they're wearing, that comfort affects posture. Better posture changes how clothing hangs. Better posture improves movement. Movement improves the visual presentation. So confidence becomes part of the outfit. The most expensive garment in the world can't compensate for someone who feels uncomfortable wearing it. And a simple garment can look remarkable when the wearer feels completely at ease. When this style works best, let's create a practical list. This type of garment is particularly suited to environments where comfort and softness are priorities. At home, perfectly natural for relaxing, reading, sleeping, or enjoying a quiet evening. For a morning routine, the loose silhouette works naturally with a relaxed atmosphere. For bridal preparation, white flowing robes and gowns are frequently associated with bridal getting-ready aesthetics, although the exact garment should be chosen according to the event. For photography, the movement and texture provide excellent visual material. For lifestyle content, the garment communicates relaxation immediately. For romantic-themed shoots, the ruffles, white color, and flowing silhouette naturally support the concept. For garden photography, the contrast between white fabric and greenery can be especially effective. What about summer? This style visually belongs naturally to spring and summer. White already has a light, fresh appearance. A flowing silhouette doesn't visually feel heavy, and lightweight materials create an airy impression. However, the actual comfort depends on the fabric. A material may look lightweight but still retain heat. So anyone purchasing a garment like this should check the fabric composition, breathability, lining, and construction rather than relying solely on appearance. That's an important distinction between fashion photography and real-world wear. Something can look beautifully airy on camera without necessarily being ideal for a particular climate. Spring is an especially good match. Spring might be the perfect visual season for this style. Flowers are blooming. Greenery returns. Natural light becomes brighter. And soft romantic fashion naturally complements the environment. Imagine the same dress photographed next to roses, lavender, or flowering trees. The color palette becomes incredibly cohesive.
White, green, pink.
Soft sunlight. That combination immediately communicates freshness. Autumn can also work. At first, autumn may seem like a strange match for a white nightgown, but styling changes everything. Imagine the garment indoors. Warm lighting, wooden furniture, cream-colored blankets, a cup of tea, maybe some muted autumn decorations. Now the white dress becomes part of a cozy atmosphere. This is an excellent example of how the same garment can transition between seasons through environmental styling rather than changing the garment itself. Winter styling. For winter, the dress can become a base layer. A soft robe or cardigan can be added. Warm socks or slippers can create a cozy aesthetic. The environment can feature warm lighting and textured blankets. The key is layering. Because the gown itself is lightweight, the surrounding pieces provide warmth while maintaining the visual softness. Again, context changes everything. Color combinations. Because the dress is white, it can work with a huge range of colors. Green creates a natural aesthetic. Pink creates a romantic aesthetic. Beige creates a minimalist luxury aesthetic. Brown creates a rustic aesthetic. Black creates stronger contrast. Pastel blue creates a calm aesthetic. Lavender creates a dreamy aesthetic. This makes white one of the easiest colors to incorporate into different visual concepts. The importance of underlayers with sheer fabric. Now we come to an important practical consideration. The image shows a lightweight, somewhat sheer-looking fabric. With garments like this, opacity and layering matter. If the fabric is transparent, an appropriate lining, slip, or other underlayer may be necessary depending on where the garment is being worn. For sleepwear, the manufacturer's intended construction should be followed. For public or outdoor wear, additional coverage may be necessary. This isn't just about fashion. It's about making sure the garment is appropriate for the environment. And the beauty of layering is that it can actually expand the garment's styling possibilities. How to make it look more expensive? Here's a useful fashion trick. Luxury doesn't necessarily mean more decoration. Often, expensive-looking styling comes from simplicity and coordination. Keep the background clean. Use soft lighting. Choose minimal accessories. Make sure the garment is wrinkle-free. Keep the hair polished. Choose understated footwear. Avoid mixing too many competing patterns. These small decisions can make a relatively simple garment look much more refined. The power of steaming and fabric care. Because this is a long flowing garment, fabric care matters. Wrinkles can dramatically change the appearance of lightweight material. A carefully steamed garment can fall smoothly. A heavily wrinkled garment can look untidy. So before filming or photographing the dress, check the entire length, especially the sleeves, the neckline, the torso, and the lower hem. For delicate mesh or synthetic materials, always follow the garment's care label and use the appropriate steaming or ironing method. Camera angles for this dress. If you're creating a YouTube video around this garment, camera placement matters. A full-body shot is essential because the dress's length is one of its defining features. A medium shot can highlight the neckline and ruffles. A side angle can show how the fabric falls away from the body. A walking shot demonstrates movement. A close-up can reveal the texture of the ruffles and fabric. This creates visual variety. And visual variety is extremely important for viewer retention. If the audience sees exactly the same framing for several minutes, attention can decline. But changing between wide shots, detail shots, movement shots, and environmental shots creates a more dynamic presentation. The best backgrounds. For this specific dress, several environments work particularly well. A bright bedroom, a garden, a balcony, a sunlit hallway, a minimalist room, a countryside-style location, a flower garden, a softly lit studio. The key is to choose a background that supports the garment rather than distracting from it. Since the dress is white, extremely bright backgrounds may reduce contrast. Greenery, wood, neutral walls, and darker furnishings can provide useful separation. Why movement is so important. Here's one of the biggest advantages of this garment for video. It moves. And movement creates retention. Instead of simply showing someone standing in a dress, you can show walking, turning, adjusting the sleeve, moving toward a window, walking through a garden, sitting down, standing up, or simply allowing the fabric to move naturally. These aren't complicated actions, but visually they create changes from shot to shot. That's valuable for fashion content. Don't overdo the poses. At the same time, too much posing can make a fashion video feel artificial. The dress has a relaxed character, so natural movement usually works better than exaggerated poses. Walk naturally. Turn naturally. Let the fabric respond to movement. Allow the sleeves and ruffles to move. The less forced the presentation feels, the more authentic the aesthetic becomes. Why natural expressions work. The garment communicates calmness, so an overly dramatic facial expression can conflict with the clothing. A relaxed expression fits better. The same applies to body language. A calm posture, natural movement,
a gentle pace.
These elements reinforce the overall mood. The viewer begins to associate the dress with relaxation rather than simply seeing it as an item of clothing. The effortless beauty effect. And this brings us to the central concept behind this entire style. Effortless beauty. The dress doesn't look like it requires hours of styling. It doesn't require a complicated pattern. It doesn't require dozens of accessories. Its appeal comes from the combination of simple elements:
white,
flowing fabric, ruffles, off-the-shoulder neckline, long silhouette, natural movement. That's it. But when those elements are balanced correctly, the result can be extremely visually appealing. Who would most likely love this style? Someone who enjoys romantic fashion, soft aesthetics, vintage-inspired clothing, cottagecore, feminine styling, comfortable loungewear, flowing silhouettes, minimalist fashion, or lifestyle photography may particularly appreciate this type of garment. It's less about age and more about aesthetic preference. Someone who loves structured suits might not choose it. Someone who loves oversized streetwear might prefer a completely different silhouette. But for someone who appreciates softness and movement, this style can be very attractive. What makes this different from an ordinary night dress? That's another important distinction. A basic night dress is generally designed around practicality. This garment adds a stronger visual identity. The off-the-shoulder neckline creates a fashion statement. The ruffles add texture. The full length creates elegance. The flowing fabric creates movement. So, even though the garment can function as sleepwear, its visual language is much more sophisticated. That's why it can cross into lifestyle and fashion content. Can it be used for content creation? Absolutely. In fact, garments with strong visual identities are often useful for content creators because they immediately establish a theme. A creator could build an entire video around romantic nightwear aesthetic, white dress morning routine, elegant loungewear ideas, how to style a white nightgown, romantic summer fashion,
or
cottagecore-inspired white dress. The possibilities are broad, and because the garment is visually distinctive, it can become the central element around which the entire video is built. A final style formula. If you want the simplest possible formula for styling this garment, remember this. White flowing gown plus natural light plus simple hair plus minimal accessories plus soft environment equals romantic elegance. If you want a more modern version, white gown plus clean background plus polished hair plus minimal jewelry plus controlled lighting equals modern sophistication. If you want cottagecore, white gown plus flowers plus greenery plus natural hair plus warm sunlight equals countryside romance. If you want cozy, white gown plus warm lighting plus robe plus slippers plus soft textures equals relaxed luxury. The garment stays the same, only the styling changes. Final thought. So, after looking closely at this white sheer mesh off-the-shoulder ruffle long nightgown, one thing becomes very clear. Its appeal doesn't come from a single feature. It's the combination. The white color creates freshness. The off-the-shoulder neckline introduces modernity. The ruffles add romance. The long silhouette creates elegance. The lightweight fabric creates movement. And the relaxed construction creates comfort. That's why this type of garment can feel both classic and contemporary. It can remind us of vintage romantic fashion while still fitting naturally into modern lifestyle aesthetics. And perhaps that's the biggest reason it continues to work visually. Fashion constantly changes. Trends come and go. Colors change. Silhouettes change. But certain ideas remain timeless.
softness,
Movement, simplicity, comfort, elegance, and confidence. Those ideas don't really go out of style. So, if you're someone who loves clothing that combines comfort with elegance, a long white off-the-shoulder ruffle nightgown like this is definitely a style worth exploring. It's especially suited to relaxed environments, romantic photography, lifestyle content, spring and summer aesthetics, and anyone who enjoys flowing, feminine silhouettes. And remember, you don't need a complicated outfit to create a beautiful look. Sometimes the simplest combination of fabric, color, movement, and styling can make the strongest impression. The real secret is knowing how to let the clothing speak for itself. So whether you're styling this type of gown for a peaceful evening at home, a morning lifestyle shoot, a garden-inspired photo shoot, or a romantic fashion concept, the same principle applies. Keep the styling intentional, keep the environment complementary, and let the natural movement of the dress become part of the story. Because ultimately, fashion isn't just about what a dress looks like hanging on a rack. It's about what happens when someone puts it on, how the fabric moves, how the silhouette changes with every step, how the light interacts with the material, how the surrounding environment changes its personality, and most importantly, how confidently the person wearing it carries the look. That is what transforms a simple garment into a complete fashion statement. And that is exactly why this white sheer mesh off-the-shoulder ruffle-long nightgown has much more going on than its simple appearance might suggest.